The sad reality is that rugby, like so many other sporting codes, have not transformed in South Africa. After unification of rugby structures, the black clubs actually lost ground in South African rugby. We are South African rugby supporters and want to remind the establishment that black people make up the majority of rugby followers, even though we can't watch live games on the field due to high ticket prices. The rugby team belongs to the entire nation, not to some Boer mafia who have controlled it for a long time. The Springboks and Super 15 teams are not as representative of the country's people as they should be. The narrative that Saru would like to promote is that black players are not as good as white players. This narrative was, however, forever shattered when a blacker Springbok team won the Argentinians, who had previously beaten a whiter Springbok team. The coach had played white players out of position to make place for out-of-form Jean de Villiers, while there was a much better wing on the bench in the form of Vovo. This clearly shows that something else is driving the decisions in rugby selection, not form players. The facilities and the resources available to the white clubs and schools are far superior to the facilities in black clubs and schools. In fact, the present system just takes promising black kids out of the black schools and into white schools on bursaries without improving the systemic weaknesses in the black system. The sponsors put their money into the white side of the sport because that's where the old boys networks exist. The sponsor donations are only possible because government gives generous tax breaks to sports sponsorship, a practice that must be reviewed. We demand the following: a more representative team going to this World Cup more than ever before, including compliance with the selection agreement with government. We want the black players who are in the squad to get game time, not only be bag carriers. Jean de Villiers should not be included in the squad because he is not match fit. It's this arrogance of the Saru establishment that thinks they can reserve spots for certain players in place of form black and white players. We want a publicly announced development plan to be negotiated with all rugby teams post the World Cup, which moves funds from white support to black support. We want government to be stricter about transformation commitments from sponsors and sponsorship before corporate sponsorships can be eligible for tax rebates. We want the funding of the school sports facilities to promote black development, as white schools already have all of the facilities. We call for the fact that we will support the Springboks no matter what, but we will insist that the team is fairly selected and representative of all of the country. We will expose the continued domination of the white establishment over rugby development. We insist on more radical speeding up of the transformation agenda by all sections of the sport. We further call for government to decisively intervene in the sport to ensure transformation. I urgent engagement with Saru tomorrow on our ambitions for social justice in rugby. And then we've added two more based on what you've raised here today, that national and provinces must take a stand on the need for transformation. And fair representation in administration and referees should be included. We will embark on a radical program of mass action that will include the withdrawal of funding and sponsorship for the national team and provincial teams. We will also request that rugby games that are played in South Africa by the Springboks We will also protest, at the rugby games that are played in South Africa by the Springboks, and we will send South Africans to go and arrange protests at the World Cup games overseas by the Springboks. We will in good faith wait for the announcement of the team on Friday in the hope that it meets the expectations of the majority of Springbok supporters in South Africa. Should it not, then we will immediately implement our program of action as outlined above. Now, we've taken what people have said today and what you've said more broadly in discussions with us and the telephone discussions that we've had, and try to accommodate everybody's senses. We want to hear if this meeting is comfortable with that, if there's any urgent additions or subtractions they want to make, and that this then be endorsed as the outcome of this meeting and our program for going forward. Another point that will be included is that we must unify with other organizations that have similar objectives, because that was a strong point that came out. So we'll include that. But Chair, that's it for you to consider with the meeting.